All this, whatsoever exists in the universe, should be covered by the Lord. Having renounced the unreal, enjoy the real. Do not covet the wealth of any man. We cover all things with the Lord by perceiving the divine presence everywhere. When the consciousness is firmly fixed in God, the conception of diversity naturally drops away, because the one cosmic experience shines through all things. As we gain the light of wisdom, we cease to cling to the unrealities of this world, and we find all our joy in the realm of reality. The word enjoy is also interpreted by the great commentator Sankaracharya as protect, because knowledge of our true self is the greatest protector and sustainer. If we do not have this knowledge, we cannot be happy, because nothing on this external plane of phenomena is permanent or dependable. He who is rich in the knowledge of the self does not covet external power or possession. If one should desire to live in this world 100 years, one should live performing karma, righteous deeds. Thus thou mayest live, there is no other way. By doing this, karma, the fruits of thy actions will not defile thee. If a man still clings to long life and earthly possessions, and is therefore unable to follow the path of self-knowledge, jnana nishta, as prescribed in the first mantram, then he may follow the path of right action, karma nishta. Karma here means action performed without selfish motive, for the sake of the Lord alone. When a man performs actions clinging blindly to his lower desires, then his actions bind him to the plane of ignorance, or the plane of birth and death. But when the same actions are performed with surrender to God, they purify and liberate him. After leaving their bodies, they who have killed the self go to the worlds of the asuras, covered with blinding ignorance. The idea of rising to bright regions as a reward for well-doers, and of falling into realms of darkness as a punishment for evildoers, is common to all great religions. But Vedanta claims this condition of heaven and hell is only temporary, because our actions, being finite, can only produce a finite result. What does it mean to kill the self? How can the immortal soul ever be destroyed? It cannot be destroyed. It can only be obscured. Those who hold themselves under the sway of ignorance, who serve the flesh and neglect the Atman, or the real self, are not able to perceive the engulfant and indestructible nature of their soul. Hence they fall into the realm where the soul light does not shine. Here the Upanishad shows the only hell is absence of knowledge. As long as man is overpowered by darkness of ignorance, he is the slave of nature and must accept whatever comes as the fruit of his thoughts and deeds. When he strays into the path of unreality, the sages declare that he destroys himself, because he who clings to the perishable body and regards it as his true self must experience death many times. That one, though motionless, is swifter than the mind. The senses can never overtake it, for it never goes before. Though immovable, it travels faster than those who run. By it the all-pervading air sustains all living beings. This verse explains the character of the Atman, or self. A finite object can be taken from one place and put in another, but it can only occupy one space at a time. The Atman, however, is present everywhere, hence, though one may run with the greatest swiftness to overtake it, already it is there before him. Even the all-pervading air must be supported by this self, since it is infinite, and as nothing can live without breathing air, All living things must draw their life from the cosmic self. It moves and it moves not. It is far and also it is near. It is within and also it is without all this. It is near to those who have the power to understand it, for it dwells in the hearts of everyone, but it seems far to those whose mind is covered by the clouds of sensuality and self-delusion. It is within because it is the most innermost soul of all creatures, and it is without as the essence of the whole external universe, infilling it like the all-pervading ether. He who sees all beings in the self and the self in all beings, he never turns away from it, the self. He who perceives all being as the self for him, how can there be delusion or grief when he sees this oneness everywhere? He who perceives the self everywhere never shrinks from anything, because though his higher consciousness, he feels united with all life. When a man sees God in all beings, and all beings in God, and God also dwelling in his own soul, how can he hate any living thing? Grief and delusion rest upon a belief in diversity, which leads to competition in all forms of selfishness. With the realization of oneness, the sense of diversity vanishes and the cause of misery is removed. The self is all-encircling, resplendent, bodiless, spotless, without sinews, pure, untouched by sin, all-seeing, all-knowing, transcendent, self-existent. He has disposed all things duly for external years. This text defines the real nature of the self. When our mind is cleansed from the dross of matter, then alone we can behold the vast, radiant, subtle, ever pure and spotless self, the true basis of our existence. They enter into blind darkness who worship avidya, ignorance and delusion. They fall, as it were, into greater darkness who worship the vidya, knowledge. By vidya one end is attained, by avidya another. Thus we have heard from the wise men who taught this. He who knows at the same time both vidya and avidya crosses over death by avidya and attains immortality through vidya. Those who follow or worship the path of selfishness and pleasure, avidya, without knowing anything higher, necessarily fall into darkness. But those who worship or cherish vidya, knowledge, for mere intellectual pride and satisfaction, fall into greater darkness, because the opportunity which they misuse is greater. In the subsequent verses, vidya and avidya are used in something in the same sense as faith and works in the Christian Bible. Neither alone can lead to the ultimate goal, but when taken together they carry one to the highest. Work done with the unselfish motive purifies the mind and enables the man to perceive his undying nature. From this he gains inevitably a knowledge of God, because the soul and God are one and inseparable. And when he knows himself to be one with the supreme and indestructible whole, he realizes his immortality. They fall into blind darkness who worship the unmanifested, and fall into greater darkness who worship the manifested. By the worship of the unmanifested one end is attained, by the worship of the manifested another. Thus we have heard from the wise men who taught us this. He who knows at the same time both the unmanifested, the cause of the manifestation, and the destructible or manifested, he crosses over death through knowledge of the destructible and gains immortality through knowledge of the first cause, unmanifested. This particular Upanishad deals with chiefly the invisible cause and the visible manifestation, and the whole trend of its teaching is to show that they are one and the same, one being the outcome of the other. Hence, no perfect knowledge is possible without simultaneous comprehension of both. The wise men declare that he who worships in a one-sided way, whether the visible or invisible, does not reach the highest goal. Only he who has a coordinated understanding of both the visible and the invisible, of matter and spirit, of activity and that which is behind activity, conquers nature and thus overcomes death. By work, by making the mind steady, and by following the prescribed rules given in the scriptures, a man gains wisdom. By the light of that wisdom, he is able to perceive the invisible cause in all visible forms. Therefore, the wise man sees him in every manifested form. They who have a true conception of God are never separated from him. They exist in him and he in them. The face of the truth is hidden by a golden disk. O Pushan, engulfant being, uncover thy face, that I, the worshipper of truth, may behold thee. O Pushan, O sun, sole traveler of the heavens, controller of all, son of Prajapati, withdraw thy rays and gather up thy burning engulfants. Now through thy grace I behold thy blessed and glorious form, the Purusha, engulfant being who dwells within thee. I am he. Here the sun, who is the giver of all light, is used as the symbol of the infinite, giver of all wisdom. The seeker after truth prays to the engulfant one to control his dazzling rays, that his eyes, no longer blinded by them, may behold the truth. Having perceived it, he proclaims, now I see that the engulfant being and I are one and the same, and my delusion is destroyed. By the light of the truth, he is able to discriminate between the real and unreal, and the knowledge thus gained convinces him that he is one with the Supreme, that there is no difference between himself and the Supreme Truth, or as Christ said, I and my Father are one. May my life breath go to the all-pervading and immortal prana. Let this body be burned to ashes. Om. O mind, remember thy deeds. O mind, remember thy deeds. Remember. Seek not fleeting results as the reward of thy actions. O mind, strive only for the imperishable. This mantram or text is often chanted at the hour of death, to remind one of the perishable nature of the body and the external nature of the soul. When the clear vision of the distinction between the mortal body and the immortal soul dawns in the heart, then all craving for physical pleasure or material possession drops away, and one can say, let the body be burned to ashes, that the soul may attain its freedom. For death is nothing more than the casting off of a worn-out garment. O Agni, bright being, lead us to blessedness by the good path. O Lord, thou knowest all of our deeds. Remove all evil and delusion from us. To thee we offer our prostrations and supplications again and again. Thank you for listening to StoryEscape, reading the Upanishad today. I'm planning on reading more, so stay tuned for more devotional content. I'm also reading a few relaxing bedtime stories and spooky stories for spooky season 2. Please leave a like and subscribe.